Welcome everyone to the Cristo Rey Network Virtual College Fair. My name's Jen. I'll be your facilitator this evening. Before we pass it over to the presenters for the Ask Admissions Rep Anything session, a few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are off so the panelists cannot see or hear you. So the best way to communicate with them throughout this session, and we encourage you to do so often, as that's the point of the session, is making sure you're submitting your questions through the Q&A, and they will be answering all of your questions through there tonight. And then feel free, we have more sessions on Saturday afternoon. If you missed anything tonight or want to attend any other sessions with other colleges, feel free to do so and register at the same website that you registered for this session. And all of these sessions are being recorded, so you'll be able to have access to them in an on-demand setting after the fact. So I will pass it over to Stephanie to get us kicked off. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen, and welcome everyone. I'm Stephanie Arias. I'm the Director of College Initiatives for the Cristo Rey Network. I'm so pleased that you've decided to spend a little bit of your Wednesday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are, with us and our fabulous representatives. We have folks from Augustana, University of Richmond, University of Portland, and Villanova University here to answer any questions that you might have that they can answer live on during this time. And so the first thing before we get started that I'd like everyone, all 25 participants to do is to please use the Q&A to just introduce yourself. I don't think you can use the chat, or maybe you can use the chat. Anywhere that you can do it, I'd like you to just tell us your name, your grade level, or if you're a parent, you could say parent, and the school, the Cristo Rey Network school that brought you here. So you would say, Pamela Holt, comma, 12th grade, comma, Cristo Rey, San Francisco, okay? So go ahead and do that now so that we can get to know who's in the room. Hi, Isaiah in Baltimore. We got a senior named Isaiah Drake, welcome. People's coming, great, awesome. Michaela in Baltimore. Facundo, grade 11, a junior at Don Bosco. That's in Tacoma Park, right outside of DC, admissions reps. Jasmine, senior in Baltimore. Ruby said hi, a current junior in Don Bosco. Ed Lowit, junior, Don Bosco. Okay, Don Bosco and Baltimore are in the room. That's great. Julissa in Dallas. Brittany Lucero, hello. Ashley. Christian, Fernando, Sadie. How cool. Okay, we've got a lot of folks here today. That's excellent. So we're so pleased. This is your time, students and parents. So I've got questions lined up in case you're feeling shy. I'll start the very first question, which is just who is on this call right now so that our reps can introduce themselves. But students, parents, start including your questions in the Q&A so that I can kick us off, okay? In the meantime, Maida, then Jose, and then whomever, let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maida Rodriguez. I use pronouns she, her, hers, and ella, and I'm one of the Associate Directors of Admissions for Augustana College. I'm regionally based in the Chicagoland region, and Augustana College is located in Rock Island, Illinois. You may not be familiar with that is, but anyway, it's about 3 hours away from Chicago. Happy to be here tonight with you all.
Hey guys, Jose Garcia, University of Richmond. I'm the Assistant Director for Diversity Outreach and Partnerships here at the University of Richmond. We're located in Richmond, Virginia, about 2 hours south of DC, and for our large contingency in Baltimore, about 3 hours from y'all. Looking forward to talking to y'all.
Hi everyone, my name is Pam Holt. I'm from Villanova University. I'm the Texas Regional Representative. I have not moved to Texas yet. It's going to be happening next month, but right now I'm coming to you live from Philadelphia. And Villanova University is about, I'd say 12 miles outside of the city. It is a suburban campus. I'm really excited to answer all your questions tonight. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Sparza. I also go by Cassie. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I am an assistant director in the Office of Admissions at University of Portland, located in Portland, Oregon. I primarily work with students coming from Utah, New Mexico, and the Portland metro area, and then specifically do focuses on diversity, recruitment, and community partnerships. So I'm super happy to be here with y'all today.
Awesome. Okay, I think that was everyone. Great. So we are inviting folks to post any questions that they have in the question and answer. The chat function is going to be disabled for all of you. You should use the Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen. And so far we've got 2 questions. I'll read them in order, and reps, if you feel called to answer, go for it. First question, can you think of any exceptional applications that you've received? What made those applications exceptional? So what makes an application exceptional?
I think I'll kick it off. I know one thing we look at here at University of Richmond is impact. Is how are you impacting, we say 3 ways, your school, your community, and the world. And that's something for us that's big, is how are you going to impact where you live, where you go to school, but the bigger thing, how you're going to impact this world. And for us, we see those applications that are just, wanting to help, wanting to do something, wanting to make a change. And it can be as small as just helping the person next to you, or it can be as big as curing a disease. But for us, it's all about, big thing is going to be impact.
You want me to go? Okay. I think that an exceptional application is an authentic application, meaning that you are being who you really are. And that is going to shine through your activities, through your community impact, through the grades, the classes you've taken. This is not social media. This is not something where you're putting a mask on. This is you being you. And I think an exceptional application is when we see your authentic self, which is we're trying to get you to come to our campus and just like Jose said, make an impact. And I think that it's important to see your authenticity in an application. The end.
Such an awesome segue into what I was going to say too. So I think that authenticity is so special. And I think what some students maybe forget is that you all have so much to offer outside of being a student. And so when I get to read applications or seeing your activities, that you are passionate about things that maybe aren't traditionally associated with college applications, like you think about things like clubs and sports and all that stuff is really important, but you all do things outside of that stuff too. And so, I think of an application where I was reading this a few years ago, and it was a student who, she was wonderful and she played like 3 different sports in high school. I was going into the essay thinking that it was maybe going to be about sports, but she surprised me about her need to be creative, and that she actually had spent a lot of time like making her own clothes and started to do like YouTube video things and stuff like that. And so just seeing that authenticity and the personality come out to where I get to know you more, I think truly makes applications really exceptional and special for us who, are on the receiving end of reading those.
And I will just add one thing, because I think my colleagues answered that question well. You all are unique students because you all have a corporate work study experience. And so that's really awesome for you to include those experiences in your application, because that's going to help you stand out, because students outside of the Cristo Rey network do not participate in a corporate work study program. So that's really unique to your experience.
Thank you, folks. No, that's great. I think those are great answers about the authenticity, focusing on impact, being specific, like only you have had the exact pathway of corporate work study that you've had. So being really specific, I think those are all really great tips. Okay, next question. The question from Isaiah was, what's the hardest part about applying to out-of-state college? I want to expand that question to just generally for students who are looking to apply out of state. Like, how does that differ from applying in-state? What do they need to highlight? What do they need to do differently if they're thinking about going away from home?
I think the hardest part about applying to colleges is the fact that you could be going to college out of state. So the fact that you're going to be away from your family, it's going to be a new environment, maybe a new state, maybe a plane ride away, depending on where you're going. So I think the thing that you need to do if you're applying to colleges out of state is do your research, visit the campus, see how long it takes you to get there, because that's how long it's going to take you to get home. Figure out what the community is like around the college. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to eat? Where are you going to play? So it's important that you're doing that research. For us, Villanova University is a private institution, meaning that there's no difference in tuition costs for in-state versus out-of-state students. So if you're going to school in-state where you're from, a state school might be a different tuition versus someone coming into that state school. So that's one thing, do your research. Make sure you understand what it means to go to school away from your family and your community.
I just want to emphasize the research piece, especially for out-of-state colleges, and especially if you aren't in a position where you're able to visit in person just yet, or if you're wanting to apply to a school but haven't visited in person. I really encourage you to lean into the resources and the practice that we've gotten during the pandemic of like connecting with folks virtually. I really encourage you, if you have a list of out-of-state colleges, reach out to your admissions counselors and ask them for a Zoom meeting, ask them for a meeting with their current students. It's likely that they have student ambassadors that are really excited to chat with you about academic programs and to really give you, I mean, we love talking about our institutions, but you can get a really authentic feel from talking to current students. So all those pieces can be really informative. And we've also done a lot of work over the last few months of ramping up the virtual experiences as far as like tours and videos and pictures. So dive into that with your research. And I think that would help you really curate your list even better with an out-of-state school and maybe make you feel a little bit more comfortable maybe putting some of those on your list.
Awesome. Okay, good. All right, like next question. What are the main incentives to awarding full scholarships to students? So main incentives, or just generally, like who, what are you looking for when you're talking about maybe full rides or those really generous scholarships? What are you looking for in an application?
I can kick it off. I know one thing, and I've worked at different institutions, and one thing that it's always been the thing is you got to be, and I go back to the impact, but impactful in the classroom and out the classroom. I mean, we talk about the superstar. We talk about, and this term I picked up a long time ago, the game changer, the person that, you stand out among the crowd. Where's Waldo? You're Waldo. You're literally Waldo, and we found you. And that's the thing you got to think about is you're doing things. I give you the example of the pandemic took away a lot of things, sports, clubs, a job. But guess what? Students created a lot of different things. They created a daycare center in their neighborhood. They started doing like a cleanup service around the block, or they, cleaned up, repainted the school because it had graffiti all over, whatever the case may be. But they did so many different things that they thought about outside the box. And I think that's the thing when we're looking at it, and I speak for us at Richmond, but it's just that unique Waldo out there. Literally, we found Waldo.
I love that. Yeah.
I agree 100% with Jose. The other thing too is build those relationships with those admissions office. Like, we are your advocates. And if we don't know you, we can't advocate for you for a full tuition scholarship because we haven't had the opportunity to get to know you, get to know your family, to get to know your counselors, and why you would be a good fit for our institution and why you are deserving of this full tuition scholarship. And so certainly I encourage you to stay connected to the admissions offices, to the institutions that you're interested in, do your research, see if they even offer full tuition scholarships, and also always ask for the amount, like how many of those full tuition scholarships do you give out? Is it just one? Is it two? Is it five? Because some of those, mostly all of those are competitive scholarships that you're going to be looking into.
Maida, can I stay on you for a second? And you were saying like, stay in touch with your admissions rep, right? So students, you've maybe heard your counselors refer to demonstrated interest.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, Maida, and anyone else talk about so the current senior right now, September 15th, give us, examples. What should they be doing? Literally tell us what to do if we wanted to build a relationship with you. What does that look like?
Yes, that's a great question. So I'd encourage you to email me, to call me, to schedule an individual meeting with me, whether it's in person, whether it's virtually. Ask questions, if you don't know who your admissions counselor is, call the general admissions office and ask, I go to this school, who is my admissions counselor and can I speak with them? Those are all pieces of demonstrated interest, making those connections. And it doesn't always have to be like a face-to-face interaction. It also is calling or emailing us, but definitely go to those high school visits. I know that all of us are currently in the midst of travel season, seniors, and so you probably have a lot of high schools visiting your schools right now. So go and see them, whether that's in person or whether that's virtually. That's a touch point that shows demonstrated interest. Especially, it's important. Not all institutions look at demonstrated interest, but in the review process. But for Augustana, demonstrated interest is super important to us in that review process. And so different touch points, seniors, that you can make within an admissions office is a form of demonstrated interest.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Okay. So
And
students,
some schools don't use demonstrated interest. So like Villanova is not using demonstrated interest as a decision-making tool. So yes, we might track our interactions with you. We might know that you visited, we might know that you emailed us, but we're not using that to make an admission decision. So all schools are different. And that might be a great question that you ask your admissions counselor. Are you tracking demonstrated interest? Are you using it? So like we do not, just so you know, there's two sides of that coin.
that's a good point. Okay. It probably would never hurt, but you're right. It doesn't always give it like the gain in the exact same way in every school. Okay. Good to know. So we've talked a little bit. First question that we were describing was about full ride scholarships. So a very quick piggyback question. What reliable scholarship websites would you recommend students use? And I'm going to tackle this one first, only because I feel very strongly about it. Can I do that? I'm not a college rep. I'm just like a former counselor or whatever. Scholarship websites are the extra icing on the cake. I want you as students to be pursuing colleges that are providing need-based financial aid. And all 4 schools represented here do that. And so rather than spinning your wheels and applying to 29 different scholarships, I want you to think right now in this season about where you're applying to school and target affordable colleges that provide need-based aid, like 4 schools that are on the screen, like our university partners, like the schools that your counselors are recommending. Okay, with that, what reliable scholarship websites would you recommend students use?
I would encourage you to start by asking the institutions that you're applying to if they actually hold a database of these types of scholarships. So for example, our Office of Financial Aid at the University of Portland, they actually make a database of external outside scholarships that they vet all of these scholarships. They're legit. They put them in a nice searchable database for you with the dates and any like certain qualifications that you might need. And this is just simply a resource because it can get a little intense if you just simply Google like scholarships for college, right? And we don't want you getting caught in something that isn't going to serve you or isn't going to help in that process. And so ask your institutions, and even just now, like even if University of Portland is not on your list whatsoever, still go to our Office of Financial Aid website and take a peek at that database because you can use that no matter where you want to go to school.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So I've got a Naviance specific question. Michaela, I think the answer to your question about when we look at Cristo Rey students on Naviance who've been accepted to a certain school, is it from your specific location or nationwide? I think the answer is it's nationwide, but I'm going to double check that for you. Our admissions reps would not know that. So Michaela, tell your counselor to ask me that question via email and I'll get you the answer. Another question here is, all right, Facundo Escobar. What are things that make a student stand out from the rest? Are grades and test scores all you look for, or are there ways to catch your attention? So a couple of things that our admissions reps have already said is you want to elevate your level of impact. You want to include corporate work study because that does make you really unique. You want to maybe personalize your application to the college, like after you've built some of that connection and relationship with liaisons, you're personalizing it. Other than that, admissions reps, what would you say, apart from grades and test scores, you're looking for to make an application really stand out?
I think the one big thing is that essay is the importance of knowing we may not get a chance to get to know y'all because some schools may offer interviews, some schools may not. Some schools we may not get to us everything at that point. So that essay is sometimes the only window we get into who you are. So making that personalized, letting us know who you are. I mean, and we'll get into this later on, but whatever you decide to write about, you know, and the terms are thrown out there about being authentic, it's about y'all. So definitely give us a glimpse. Like I say, open the curtains and show us who you are.
And to piggyback off of the essay thing, don't think you have to shock us and awe us and be like, oh my God, you climbed Mount Everest. That's amazing. It's okay. You probably didn't do that, and you might just be a normal high school student. I've read an essay about a student talking about how they loved their local coffee shop, and then someone put a flyer there about a volunteer thing about sustainable coffee practices. And they talked about how they want to do environmental sustainability in college, you know, like something as dull as going to get coffee. They wrote a fantastic essay about it. Like, you don't have to make me cry. Please don't make me cry. Like, you read a lot of essays and they can be very interesting. And if you can just take something from your life that to you might seem mundane, to us, it might be like, that's awesome. And this student is going to make an impact. We keep going back to that. But like, don't think that you have to like shock us into this crazy thought process. And then the other thing on top of that is good grades are important. We want to see that a student has challenged themselves in their classroom, you know, chosen if they have opportunities for honors classes, AP classes. You know, if you can do that and you can challenge yourself and you can be successful in the classroom, we do like to see that. So I would be remiss if I said grades aren't important, but they are important when we are reading an application. Just keep that in mind.
Pamela, is Villanova on the Common App?
Yes, we are exclusively on the Common App. That's
Exclusively on the Common App. And I think the other schools are also on the Common App. My follow-up question was, so, because Brittany Lucero was asking also kind of similar question about like, how do you make your application stand out aside from transparency and realness, grades? What about extracurriculars? So my question was, in the Common App on the activity tracker, I think they still call it the activity tracker, I don't know, you know, where they're writing like what they're doing. So they're a volunteer for the Coffee Sustainability Club. What are the do's and don'ts in that activity tracker? Like, other than like, obviously proofread your stuff, students, you got to proofread even there, please do. But like, you know, what are the good, like volunteer at the coffee sustainability group, you know, like how do they write that in a way that will catch your eye?
I think you need to make sure that, so there's things that happen at Villanova that I call them Villanova centric vocabulary. Like on campus, there's this place called the Oreo. And like, you would not know what that is. You do not go to Villanova. So like, if I talk to you about it, you'd be like, Pam, is that a cookie? Are we gonna go eat cookies? And it's like, no, it's a big statue. So like, when you're filling out those things, if within your school, you call something an acronym or it's something special, make sure you're thinking, wait a second, someone from Cristo Rey is not reading this. I need to make sure they understand what I'm doing with this. Like maybe someone doesn't know about the internship that you all do. So like make sure you are explaining that well when you're filling that out. And then the other thing I just want to touch on is that maybe you go home at the end of the day and you have a job and you're not involved in sports or you're not involved in different clubs on campus because you have to work or you have a family commitment, you take care of siblings, you take care of old grandparents or anything like that. You can also put that in that section. So if you consider yourself a caretaker for your siblings, write it down. Put us how many hours a week you believe that you're doing that, because that's showing us that you are involved in your community, but maybe in a different way that some other people aren't involved in their community. So that is how we get to know you and understand what you're doing. So you just want to keep in mind when you're filling that out, think someone not from here is reading this. How do I articulate things better? That would be my advice on that section.
I think another tip that I would recommend students is put them in the order of importance to you. So like your number one activity that you are super proud of, you've enjoyed throughout your high school, put that as your first activity on that list. I think that's really important. And my second tip is don't feel like you need a laundry list. Don't feel like you need 10 activities on there. I think one of the common myths in admissions is that I need a long list of extracurricular activities to get into so-and-so, and that's not the case. We certainly love to see all the things that you are involved in, but we also like consistency. So if there is an organization that, let's say you started your freshman year. So let's use the sport as an example. You joined the soccer team your freshman year, but your senior year, you became the captain of soccer. So those leadership opportunities that you have within those organizations, name those when you're talking about those activities.
One more really quick tip to add, and this kind of goes to the essay portion too, a tip of like, don't do in your essay, and this has to do with the activities list, is don't give us your activities list in paragraph form when you attempt the essay, right? That's something we've already read. We already know those things. And so if you just put that in paragraph form, you're missing a big opportunity to tell us something new about yourself. Now, it's totally fine if you talk about a specific experience with that top #1 activity that you do that really impacted you, that you feel really passionate about, and expanding on that one experience. That's totally great and beautiful. And again, it keeps the topic of the essay centered on you, right? You always want to ask the question of, is this about me? But just a little don't do tip is just don't write your activities list out in paragraph form, because it's stuff we've already seen. So we want to learn something new about you.
Okay, speaking of learning something new, admissions reps, I think, well, I don't want to make any assumptions. How do y'all feel about the COVID-19 topic in the essay, in the additional information section of the Common App, in the letters of recommendations? Tell us, give us the like how, you know, the tips to do it well, and then the ways to like avoid the big, you know, no-nos.
I think the biggest thing in that is how much did COVID impact you and how did it change you is going to be the biggest things. I don't think anybody in this room would say, don't write about something if you don't feel that it impacted your shows. But the biggest thing I would say is, don't just tell us how it impacted you, but tell us how it changed, how it helped you develop, how you have come out the other side of this, you know, a different person. But I always say it's a story. Don't give us the beginning and the middle and then forget the end. You know, so definitely going from there. But my biggest thing I think would say is, if it is that impactful to you, I would say write about it. But if it's not, don't just throw it out there because you can't think of a topic.
Great.
I would say that it affected everyone differently. That's another thing, is that everyone was impacted by it differently. So if you feel that you just didn't have your sports season because of it, maybe we know that. We know everything was canceled. You don't have to give us the laundry list of everything that was canceled that you didn't do, because for some people, they might have had it. They might have lost someone to it. So their impact of COVID-19 was a lot different than it was for you. So really think thoughtfully if you feel it's necessary to your story and to your application.
Okay, excellent. Those are great responses. Let's see. So I think we've answered a lot of these questions about extracurriculars and sports, and how to really kind of elevate your sense of impact. Jasmine did ask, you know, how do you elevate? Like, we're hearing a lot about impact. Tell us how this impacted you. Any kind of quick, you know, this is how you show impact. I mean, I love what Jose just said about, don't forget, this is a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. You got to say the end, like what this means for you now. Anything else you guys would say about how to elevate your level of impact?
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I think that one thing you need to keep in mind is that your impact in high school is going to be different than your impact in college, and your resources in college are going to be different than your resources in high school. So the ways that you're impactful within your current community are going to be different than when you get to college. So I think when we're reading an application, we want to see, what have you done here where you're at now, and how will that be elevated when you get to college? So I think that everybody can impact their community in different ways. You can impact your community by having a job after school and just being kind to everybody who comes in that you talk to, right? That can be impactful. You can make an impact on the soccer field. You can make an impact in your internship, right? You can make impacts in lots of different ways, but I think that it can be very simple, and don't think too much about it. Like, I think that it can be very simple. You probably all are already doing something where you're impacting your community, and that we want to see that when you get here, when you get to our school, you're going to be a great fit and you're going to do amazing things. So I think that I think you all might be thinking impact is this huge thing, but it's not. It can be a lot smaller than you think it is.
One thing that just reminded me of, Pamela, is like, you know, for our student workers, because we have student workers in the Cristo Rey National Office, and in their role as student workers, they have a really tremendous impact on our team in freeing us up to be able to do our work and certain parts of our work by helping us stay organized in the office, streamline operations in the office. So my big note to you students is like, don't forget about the impact in your corporate work study sites, in the impact on your teams, in the offices that you work in the buildings and the organizations that you support. And also, you are not bragging. Like, this is not something you should be like, oh, I don't want to, I sound obnoxious. I sound like I'm bragging. No. This is your college application. Go ahead and brag. Yeah, look at everybody's nodding, right? Go ahead and brag about what you've been up to and how you've helped make your coworkers, your teachers, your peers' lives a bit easier and better. Okay. All right, folks, let's do a quick round robin. I'm going to ask you the question, are you test optional for this upcoming school year? And so, Maida, are you guys, is Augustana College test optional this year?
We are, yes.
Great. Jose, is University of Richmond test optional this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Cassie, University of Portland, are we test optional this year?
Yes, we are.
And Pamela, is Villanova test optional?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought it was going to get real awkward if 3 out of 4 were and then 1 was not. All right, folks, so everyone on this call is test optional. The follow-up question from Idlawit was like, what's the minimum GPA and test score for your university? In my experience, there's not really like a firm minimum. You're looking for rigor, you're looking for a well-balanced course list GPA with test scores, right? Okay, cool. Facundo asked, how long would a good essay normally be? How many pages do you want? Again, I don't think the answer is going to be number of pages, but I'll let you comment, admissions reps, on like length of essays.
I would say when it comes to length of essay, this is not the answer that you want to hear, but it's what you feel looks and represents you the best. Don't ever think I have to hit the word count like, oh my God, it's 650 words, I gotta get 649 words. It is literally that. I will throw the other side of the coin is please don't write 2 sentences and then turn it in, okay? So literally what you feel represents you is the best length for your essay, in my opinion.
And I will just like kind of bounce off of that and ask y'all to be mindful of word counts, especially if you're like copying and pasting things from a different program and stuff. Like Common App will have that word count for you. Example, like our specific University of Portland application does not have a word count on it. So like you can create that essay if it feels right to have it be longer, but just be mindful of that. And if you're not sure if an application does, like just connect with your admissions counselor about like word counts and stuff like that, and they're happy to help you. But that's just a little extra thing to keep in mind.
Thank you both for that response. Okay, this is a heady one. Michaela Keith is asking, how individually do each of your schools help students who deserve to be there but can't afford it? How do each of your schools help students who deserve to be there but cannot afford it? And I think I want to hear from all of you, if that's okay.
I can go ahead and
Go ahead. Yep.
okay. I can go ahead and kick us off. Great question. And a tough question, but I think you should just not ask the 4 of us that question. Every school that you're considering certainly ask that question. Specifically at Augustana College, I am very proud to work for this institution. We not only give out merit scholarships, so when a student applies to our institution, they'll receive an academic scholarship based off of your GPA. So your grades, but we have so many additional grants and awards that we give out to students. For example, we have a campus visit award. We give $1,000 to students if they just visit campus. But to get to the nitty-gritty part of your question is, what happens if we can't afford it? Thankfully at Augustana, you are able to appeal your financial aid award. So if you fill out the free application for federal student aid, also known as the Fafsa, which opens up on October 1st, and let's say you put Augustana College on that Fafsa application, we get that information sent to our Office of Financial Aid, and they're going to do their best to try to meet your need. And so let's say you still have a gap at the end, and you're like, I really want to be there. I think I deserve to be there. I think I have a really good fit for Augustana College. That's when you get to reach out to your admissions counselor and let them know what is going on. Every situation is different, but I'm really thankful to work for an institution that's willing to listen and see and find ways to see if we can make Augustana possible for you, whether that's in grants or additional awards that we can give you. And that's institutional aid. So that is not like an extra loan that we're going to give you that you are going to be expected to pay back. Although we do have an Augustana loan program, but certainly have those conversations. And if you're interested in Augustana, don't hesitate to reach out, and we can certainly see what the best pathway for you financially is.
I echo everything that Maida said as far as kind of how we would handle a situation like that at University of Portland, and just in my experience, and even just getting into what might be an even tougher conversation if things happen to change, right? There's a lot of time in between applying to a college and then making a decision, and things can even change within your situation or circumstance. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes we do have really tough conversations about that with students. And so my goal is, if it's a student who is very interested in UP, I think they deserve to be at University of Portland. We may even start to explore the option of, you know what, let's stay connected, and what does it look like to transfer to University of Portland at a later time, if that's something that we need to do and something that we need to work on. And it's that idea of putting that on our radar now, right? Or once you get deep into this process, because we have folks in our offices that work with transfer students to make sure that transfers will actually, credits will actually transfer at that time, right? That you're still on a good timeline. And so sometimes it's even about navigating some tougher conversations in that way, but we're ready to have those conversations with you whenever that might be too.
So to get a financial aid package, you need to file the FAFSA and the Css Profile. We need both of those forms at Villanova University. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It's free. Don't pay to fill it out. That's a scam. It's free. And then there's the Css Profile, which is the college scholarship search profile. And that's on the College Board. So the same place you'd sign up for like your SAT. And when you submit a financial aid package, it lets you know how much it's going to cost you to go to that school. And it's going to let you know if you get any loans you pay back, grants are great. That's free money. And then work study, which would be an opportunity for a job on campus. So those are all the things that you're going to see if you qualify for when you submit all of those forms. Don't be scared of what the sticker price is of a college, because most people don't pay that because of all those opportunities for financial aid, especially at Villanova. Our average grant, which is free money, last year was $37,000. Okay, so it's very important that you're submitting those forms and that you're seeing what you can get from that college. And again, don't be scared of the sticker price, because that's a myth that we talked about, myths earlier, that you might say, oh, college is expensive. It doesn't have to be. There are affordable places out there where you can get a bachelor's degree, and don't be scared of the sticker price.
And one thing to look around too is seeing what schools can give you an aid. I'm very fortunate to work at university. We meet 100% demonstrated need, which means that for us, we are able to fund students with grant and aid only, and we're a partner with Cristo Rey schools. So any student that is admitted from a Cristo Rey school, no matter where you are in the nation, here at Richmond, you're getting a package with no loans. And that's something to be said that, and we'll talk about later on. I see one question about selectivity or admissions rate, but with that being said is the ability to go somewhere that, look at the cost of attendance when you're looking at a school, because there's some things that may be hidden out there. Some places may say, hey, you've got to pay this, this, and this, but always ask what's included in my cost of attendance, because that includes not only your tuition, your housing, but computer fees, lab fees, everything of that nature, stuff like that, parking and all that, but understanding all that from there. Very similar to Villanova, we do require you guys both forms, both the Fafsa and the Css profile. And one thing, remember you guys about the Css profile, unlike the Fafsa, you fill it once and you're done. Css, it's one per school. So you have to, if that school asks for CSS, it's an individual form for every one of them. So always keep that in mind.
But before you roll your eyes, students, at the idea of an individual CSS profile, I always told my students, if they're asking you for a CSS profile, they're about to give you a lot of money, because usually it was a sign that they were about to package you up. They're just confirming that your need is real. They're confirming the information on your FAFSA. So it's a detailed, lengthy process, but very financially worthwhile to complete that profile. Okay, it is 7:40. We have 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask another heady question. Jasmine has been on point with her questions that make us really think. Mario asked a very similar question, and then we might have time for one more after that. And this is about diversity. I'm going to extend it to like inclusion, right? Belonging on your campuses. What is that experience like? I know you can't speak on behalf of all students of color, but generally speaking, what is the experience like for students of color? How diverse are your institutions? What are you guys doing about racial equity? And maybe can you try to do it in 30 seconds or less?
I'll roll quick. So we're about 35% diverse on our campus. For us, we talk about, and the simplest thing I'd say, not only are you going to get invited to dance, we want you to dance at the party. That means be yourself, show who you are, be proud of where you're from. For us on our campus, we talk about, again, it's the inclusion part of it. So here at Richmond, and I'll be honest with you, we have some difficult conversations here, but that's the beauty of diversity and inclusion, having the difficult conversation and learning from that difficult conversation. That's a big thing at our place.
We can throw statistics out at you about this all the time, right? So for University of Portland, we're about 44-45% diversity in terms of race and ethnicity. This year's first year class clocked in at 53%, which is the first time we've surpassed a 50% rate ever. So that was really amazing. And that just pushes an institution further to do the work and making sure that we are creating these spaces that these students deserve to be at and feel comfortable in and be included, right? And so I think for us, it's not only working on that continued recruitment of diverse students, but how do we make sure that that's represented on the faculty and the staff level, right? Because it's important that when you land at our schools, that you also see folks in positions in front of the classroom that look like you. And so those are the next steps. And those also involve really hard conversations, but I'm happy that our administration, but even our students really push us to think really hard about that. So I really appreciate those questions.
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. So at Augustana, we're about 35% of our students identify as students of color. We're a small school, it's about 2,500 students, and we're always working on diversity and inclusion and equity work. There's lots of conversations. We certainly have a community that expresses a sense of belonging. We have programs in place for you to be successful, where you feel like you are going to get that academic and social and personal support. For example, we have a phenomenal orientation program for our students of color. With students, you come into campus, you move in early, you get a community, you built a cohort, and you're with this cohort all year long. And our hope is for you to create lifelong friendships through this program, but we also have other support systems in place for you to be successful throughout your 4 years.
So Villanova is about 27% diverse, and it's just like everyone else, something that we're working on, something we're devoted to. There's a lot of fantastic conversations happening around our campus. We do have a lot of wonderful resources for students as well, specifically something called CASA, which is our Center for Access and Achievement. And it's to help students who are underrepresented, first generation students or Pell eligible students, to help you throughout your entire college process. So during the recruitment process, during the coming to school, your orientation process, and then until you graduate, even after you graduate, we have support for our students. So there's a lot going on with our campus. And I highly encourage you to go visit the campuses and see it for yourself. That's probably one of the best ways to see is to go to the campuses. If you can, of course. I know things are weird, but if you can, of course.
I love that. I love ending on that note too. Like, if you can, I know things are weird, but if you can, get out to the campus or call up Maida at Augustana and call up Cassie at University of Portland. Right now, students, I want you to take out a piece of paper, or probably because you're way more tech savvy than I am, take a screenshot. And I want you to look up Augustana College, University of Richmond, Villanova University, and the University of Portland. They're all over the country. They're excellent options for you to apply to. Excellent options. We are officially partnered with them at the Cristo Rey Network, which means we've already done our research. I'm telling you, they're excellent institutions to attend. So please apply there. Thank you to these 4 representatives for their time. And we welcome you to come back on Saturday for another open forum. You can ask different questions. You can hear from new folks. And thanks to all who are spending some time with us tonight. Okay. Stay well. And actually a couple of announcements.
No worries. Yeah, that was an awesome session. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us. When you do exit this webinar, you will be taken to a quick 5-question survey. So we'd love to hear your feedback. And then, as Stephanie mentioned, we'd love to see you on Saturday if you want to continue to listen for more of this great information and connect with other colleges and universities across the country. This was recorded and it will be available on the website in the next couple of days as well if you want to rewatch it. So thank you so much, everyone. And we hope everyone has a great evening wherever you are. Take care.